Howdy, all y'alls. Thanks for watching. I know it's kind of dark and shadowy, but this is my Ford Pinto that I picked up sometime in the 90s. I don't remember. There was a lot of stuff going on back then for me. Well, there's always a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, I figured out the connection between a Ford Pinto and Pakistani bagpipes. And here's this kind of this story. Um, I was living in an apartment, a little tiny apartment that used to be a hotel, and one of my neighbors um, was a flat track racer, but he had an alcohol problem, and he ended up selling me my Pinto for $600. This was back in the early 90s. And the paint was still shiny and everything like that. And the car was bone stock exhaust system and everything. But, well, see, I had this problem with cars. I like every car I've ever driven. So, for their own different reasons. Which, by the way, manifests out something up. Right now, the current car that I want is a Kia Stinger, and it needs to be orange, because that's my racing colors. So anyway, I bought this Ford Pinto, and everybody hates Pintos. So what happened, even back then, you know, there were a lot of people who owned Pintos liked Pintos. So anyway, I bought this Pinto. And the problem with it was that when I would start it up in the morning, it would take forever for it to go into gear because the transmission needed to warm up. Now, I didn't know anything about Ford Pintos. So, I ended up taking my Pinto to a shop that, whoops, got something blinking. So, I took my Pinto to a shop, and they charged me $2,000 to rebuild the transmission and put a shift kit in. And then they took out the high altitude torque converter and put in a stock, a regular low altitude torque converter, which slowed the car down like crazy. So that's the first part of the history of the car. Oh, I also learned how to put a timing belt in on a Ford Pinto because the timing belt went out on my Pinto. Now, what happened with the Pinto that I learned later is that the Pinto has what's called a deep sump pan, which requires a deep sump pickup, because the Pinto can turn corners tighter than a normal regular car with a shallow pan and this, that, and the other. So basically there was nothing wrong with my car. It had a sump thing with it. It had the wrong sump put in because it had a deep pan with a shallow sump pickup. So that cost me $2,000. That's the price of ignorance. So anyway, I drove this Pinto everywhere. I drove it up to Utah from Southern California, and the fastest it would go, floored, completely floored, for the climb out between the people from the western United States who go through St. George and Utah and everything will know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyway, I drove up to Salt Lake City because I hated California at the time. I hated California, so I drove up to Salt Lake City to try to make it up there. Well, in Salt Lake City at the time, there was a place called Bonneville Raceways. It was a drag strip, and it's a historic drag strip that does not exist anymore. And Utah still has a strong car culture, which is still flourishing right now, despite the best efforts of the government. So anyway, and you can hear in the background, in Ogden where I live, you can hear the people racing up and down the street on Washington Boulevard, which is where all the street racers go, which is why I kind of wanted to do this video here. So anyway, my Ford Pinto I went up there and I was working at a warehouse place like that, and barely making minimum wage, and I couldn't make it. But I ended up going to Bonneville Raceways. Now, that's with this Pinto, and it has an automatic transmission, a C4. It's bone stock, stock exhaust, everything. So, when I first ran the car, my Pinto, at Bonneville Raceways, and I was there almost every weekend that I could had money or wasn't doing something else with everybody. So, my Pinto, when I first got it, at Bonneville Raceways, which is at 4,200 feet altitude. So I ran 21 seconds in the quarter mile. Now, you guys that can laugh and this, that, and the other, but I was bracket racing and I knew how to bracket race, and so the only time I got eliminated was if I screwed up. So anyway, bracket racing was super consistent. Now, the first thing I tried is I tried running the car without the air filter in and without the lid on. And I discovered that the car my Pinto ran slower with the air cleaner off. And when I put the air cleaner on and put the lid on without the air filter, I ran 2/10 of a second faster. Now, I don't remember what my miles per hour was back then, but that was the start of my Pinto addiction. So, things didn't work out in Utah for me back then because I did not have any kind of a skill set, except for warehousing, which I got really good at. Excuse me, I'm having a smoke while I'm talking to you. So anyway, I ended up going back to California. And I started racing at the local tracks all around Southern California. So I raced at Brotherhood Raceway, I raced at LACR, I raced at Pomona, I raced at Carlsbad Raceway. Carlsbad is closed down now, which is kind of sad. I didn't but I always showed up somewhere every weekend in my Pinto. And I would run from the first run in the morning to I've had a dry scritch. I had a cold for a couple of days last week, and the scritch is still there in my throat. So I would the track that I showed up to the most was Brotherhood Raceway, and I was famous for being slow but consistent. And I knew my car inside and out, and so I started modifying my Pinto. I ended up putting a header on it, and had a Costa Mesa muffler in Costa Mesa, put an exhaust on it with a first generation Flowmaster muffler. It was a one-chamber muffler which droned louder inside the car than it was outside the car. So anyway, that muffler, oh my gosh, I had noise shock for about 2 weeks from driving around with this muffler. So it's a first generation muffler. I still have the muffler if Flowmaster is interested in putting this up on a wall. So anyway, I started learning how to tune. And, well, I already knew how to tune because of my high school days and everything like that. So, after putting the header on and putting a new exhaust in, it's 2.5-inch exhaust, which is all the Pinto needed because I only shifted at 5,000 RPM, which is really low for a Ford 2.3 engine. But I still had the stock Weber carburetor. Well, here's the thing. In Utah, it's called Heber and Weber. So for a long time, people will look at me funny because I will call it a Weber carburetor. So it's getting darker out, so I'm getting more of this light. So anyway, I started out after the header was on, I went to a place called Fast Freddy's. And these, I don't know if they're still around or anything like that, but I gather they were circle track people. And at sea level, um, yeah, I could change my jets, and I did some experiments and stuff like that. And I went to Fast Freddy's, and the guy said you need a 76 and a 74, and without even thinking about it on the 2.3. And so I got a 76 and a 74 jet, put those in. I swapped them around to see if there was a difference or anything like that. There wasn't. So, anyway, that's somebody shining a bright light over there. So anyway, I broke it down into the 19s in the quarter mile, and after that, I started doing some other stuff. Advancing because the Pinto engine is a non-interference engine. You can fiddle around with the cam timing by advancing it a notch, this, that, and the other. So I worked with the Pinto, and eventually the quickest I went in the quarter mile was in the low 18s at around 74 miles an hour, which is, in my opinion, pretty good for a bone stock Pinto with an automatic transmission and 343 gears. I've never changed the rear gears, but for a lot of people, the Pinto, my Pinto, was a lost cause. But the thing is, I showed up every weekend at somewhere. I was at Brotherhood Raceway. I had people tell me, like, what in the heck are you doing with this Pinto? You work on the Pinto all the time in the track, at the track. Well, I was tuning. Well, I went, and I don't know if this company still exists. It's called Stinger Ignition, and they were famous in California for being able to set up a distributor with good tuning. So I went to them, and they only charged me like $14 to recurve my distributor, put new springs on, change the advance, and everything. And it didn't really affect my timing, but the throttle response was a lot better. Now my Pinto, before I started working on it, when I would do the climb out from Mesquite, Nevada up to St. George, floored, the fastest I could go was 70 miles an hour, going through the gorge and everything like that, going straight up from Mesquite, Nevada to St. George. That's the fastest I could go, 70 miles an hour, floored. It just would not go any faster. So, anyway, the connection with the lost cause of my Pinto and Pakistani Bagpipes is there's a lot of people that think that Pakistani Bagpipes are worthless and not worth the time to spend on them or anything like that. Well, what they don't understand is the satisfaction a person or myself gets from making a lost cause work. So that's my thing here. And now the future plans I have for the Pinto, they're just pipe dreams. Right now is I want to put a 9-inch differential in the rear, and I know the company that I want to have do it or put it in, and the reason why it is because of the Ford 9-inch differential is heavy, and it'll definitely slow down my car, because I have right now the differential I have is a 7.5 differential, but I have, with the 9-inch, I have more choices of gears. So I'll be losing with the potential of gaining more when I follow through my other plans. Now, I'm not going to do a super crazy car that was going to show up in Hot Rod magazine, but there's the Ford Ecotec turbo 4-cylinder motor that would bolt right into my Pinto, and that could be tuned to whatever horsepower I want till I destroy the engine, which is not, I want to have fun with the car because it's a Pinto. And also, I might leave it patinaized, except for the fender, which I need to get fixed because I can't have it making that crunchy sound all the time. And then, oh, thought I heard a kitty cat. So, anyway, that's all I really want to do. I just rebuild the suspension and everything like that, get the interior redone, put maybe an Ecotec uh, engine in it. It's a 74 Ford Pinto, so it has a huge engine bay. A lot of people, the thing that the Pinto was famous for was have the 74 Pinto was that it had a huge engine bay that would fit a 302 or 351 or a bigger engine, the 400 or the Ford 460. Well, that's not my thing because that makes the car, those big engines make the car heavy. Now, Ford has a new engine out now that's called, this is a 7.3 liter pushrod engine, which is kind of turning into a rage, at least on Instagram, is turning into the rage at the moment. That's tempting, but it's not hugely original. I think the Ecotec 4-cylinder would be more fun, but I could make enough horsepower that I could probably keep the 343 gears, and the Pinto is light enough, it would still be really quick and be drivable on the freeway. Now, I want to do some structural stuff to it so that it's safe. I mean, people freak out about the gas tank thing, and you know what, it was a rare occurrence, and they have the fix for it, and I had the shield, and what it had to do with it was a bolt sparking on the gas tank when it got punctured. But I'm not going to be driving the Pinto out in regular traffic unless I'm going to a car show. Otherwise, it's going to be a trailer queen, because I have enough cars. I don't need the Pinto for my daily driver. So anyway, you know, Pakistani Bagpipes, lost cause. Ford Pinto was spending money on the car, lost cause. There's kind of custom stuff that I want to do with it. I want to keep the 74 bumpers, but I want to have them narrowed and Frenched in so that they aren't so prominent sticking out. And then because the 73 and earlier bumpers are kind of like Corvette bumpers. They're really skinny and kind of functionless. A Pinto gets into a wreck with those bumpers and it's totaled. My Pinto still would be totaled, but maybe you'll keep your legs with those structural changes in the Pinto. So anyway, it's getting darker, and the sun's going down. You can see it back there, and you know, Ford Pinto, lost cause. Pakistani Bagpipes, lost cause. But I've been successful with both, and I've had lots of fun with my Pakistani Bagpipes, and I've had lots of fun with my my Pinto. It's part of the history. Even my oldest niece has ridden in the back seat of the Pinto. I don't know if she remembers it, but my sister does. And I don't. My younger niece, I don't think I was around when she was born and stuff. So she never rode in the Pinto, and I don't know if the Pinto was running at the time. So that's my story for the lost cause of the Ford Pinto and the Pakistani Bagpipes. It's just part of what I do, I guess. So thanks for watching, and have a good night. And you can still hear the hot rods in the background in my neighborhood, and you get used to it after a while. Ogden City is not as gentrified as they think they are, unless they're way up on the hill. But I like my neighbors, and if I were to win the lottery, or if all of a sudden I came into a whole bunch of money, I don't think I would move, because I like my neighborhood. I like my neighbors. They're regular people. They're easy to talk to. My one next door neighbor, almost every time, we talked to each other over the fence, and it ends up being about an hour-long conversation about everything and nothing. So, I think that's more of what life's supposed to be about. Now, I know this kind of cryptic kind of lighting and stuff like that. That wasn't my full intention. Um, but now, someday with the Pinto, the Oldsmobile is my current project. So, anyway, there it is. Thanks for watching, and have a good night, and take care. And for those of you who are so inclined, God bless. Bye.